Well, we're happy to welcome Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, and Phil Collins to Live at 5. You guys don't get any older, you just keep getting better. Welcome to the broadcast.
Good evening.
Thank you.
This is your first album in about 3 years, as I understand it. Have you sort of set that kind of a loose schedule in terms of going into the studio and making albums?
Well, it's been about 2 years, but yeah, that schedule suits us fine. At the end of the last tour in '84, we kind of set a date to say we'll start again at September '85, and that seems to come around soon enough.
Now, you talk about going into the studio with a blank slate, turning on the tape recorder, and just letting things happen. When you have been apart for a period of a couple of years, tell me a little bit about what happens in that studio, particularly in the early stages as you get this project off the ground. It took you about 4 months to put Invisible Touch together.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Tom.
I will go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, we just go into the studio and improvise for, well, it doesn't take quite as long as a couple of weeks, No, we just go in there, improvise, and see what happens. And hopefully by the end of a month or two, we've got some songs. And that's how it's happened the last couple of times we've done it.
Now, you call that writing as a group. I wonder, when it comes down to beginning to pull out the little bits and pieces that are going to make up the songs, who decides? How do you decide? And if there's a disagreement, who has the final vote?
We all decide. It's one of those. That's why the group thing stays together, really. With all the individual things we do, we stay together as a group. I've got a lovely buzzing in my left ear. It's wonderful.
Sorry about that, Phil.
We stay together. And basically, we don't have too many disagreements because we're all responsible for what we're writing. When we're sitting down and improvising, we're responsible for whatever comes out. And if we don't like it, we've only got ourselves to blame, really. So we don't have too many disagreements about what goes on an album and how a song turns out because we're responsible for it.
Now, this new album is rising up the charts as quickly as anything Genesis has ever done. 20 years is a long time in any business. 20 years in rock and roll music is 12 lifetimes. How have you held it together, and what problems have you encountered along the way? Was the group ever in danger of splitting up, for example?
No, I think when Peter Gabriel first left, left the group in '74, I think a lot of people thought we were doomed for the stockpile, but in fact, it pulled us together more just to sort of prove that we were actually a five-piece group at that time. And not just Peter and the four of us backing, So I think at that point we, rather than a lot of people think, us potentially splitting up, we stayed together. And I think we weathered that storm very well, and the same when Steve Hackett left us. And really, it's been pretty easy. I mean, because, especially the last few years, we've all had solo things. Because we all write a lot of music, we don't actually try and get it all into the group. We have other outlets, and as we get a little bit older, you have other things you want to do, and we all enjoy doing the group enough to come back every couple of years to do an album,
Phil, your solo career has been nothing short of phenomenal over the last couple of years. Do you have a preference working as a solo or being with that security blanket that is Genesis?
No, one thing keeps you fresh with the other. I mean, I like producing records for other people too. I mean, you do one thing for like 6 months or so, and then you get a bit tired of it and you do something else. I mean, it's hard. We've never had to make any decisions, fortunately. I mean, I suppose a lot of bands like us in the early days, as I suppose what happened to us in our early days, we had to make decisions. People had to leave if they wanted to do things on their own, but fortunately we're not in that position anymore. But we can do whatever we really feel like doing.
Now, let me ask Tony and Mike, or both, or either, if there's ever been any resentment in terms of the success, for example, of Phil Collins as a solo. Did it ever bother either of you two that he went out and virtually went through the ceiling on his own?
We always hated him. Yeah. I know it sounds too good to be true, but when you've been playing with the same people for as many years we have, and someone has success, I think we feel very supportive towards each other. And when Phil does well and whoever does well, I think we think fantastic. And the thing that everyone forgets is that this is the first time that you get into the stage when people have been in, let's call it a pop group, for as many years as we have. So you've got to have a little bit, after 18 years, you have to have a little bit of freedom, like we do, moving around other projects. Otherwise, the whole thing becomes just too suffocating. And the way it is now seems to suit us very well, I think.
Tony, do you agree with all of those nice things that Mike said?
No, I never agree.
No. Yeah, I think mainly. I think the other thing is it's much easier to take I think if it had happened when we were sort of like in our 20s, early 20s or something, I think it would be more difficult to take one member of the group doing so well in relation to the others. But I think now, I don't know, I just think that you're older, you can take care of it. And the Genesis music, the band still carries on and gets stronger and stronger, so we've really nothing to sort of complain about.
Well, you're down at the Garden through Friday. As I mentioned, they sold out 5 dates in 6 hours, so the popularity of Genesis speaks for itself. It's a group that has lasted over time, and in the rock music business, that's a tough bit of business in itself. Fellas, thanks very much for being with us on Live at 5, and continued good luck and success to you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye, Mom.
Bye, Mom. Sue?
All right, Jack.